This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Welcome to Island Treasures, a place for caregivers to hear encouragement from other caregivers, who, by sharing their experiences, offer helpful information and resources for your caregiving journey. This podcast is brought to you by Alongside Caregiver Consulting, and I am your host and caregiver consultant, Alison Van Schie from beautiful Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. As I introduce today's guest, I expect you'll want to pay close attention. What she has to offer for folks caring for a loved one living with dementia can be a game changer. Believed by some to be the dementia whisperer, she is an occupational therapist with over 40 years experience working with folks experiencing brain changes. As a teacher and an advocate, she has honed her skills to help us all with her positive approach to care. So fasten your seatbelts, we're in for an awesome ride as we get curious with dementia care expert Teepa Snow. Well, welcome Teepa Snow. I never thought I would be saying those words, but welcome Teepa Snow to the Island Treasures podcast.
Oh, you never thought you'd have snow in Hawaii? Is that Yeah, it's good to be with you, even if it's sort of long distance. I'm in North Carolina.
Yeah. No, it is definitely long distance. And well, Vancouver Island, we know all about Teepa Snow, so we don't have much
Oh,
snow.
so we're not in Hawaii?
No,
Darn.
sorry.
I was
Yeah.
hoping that was our island. See, and now all of a sudden, here we are where it's cold again. And, but it's a beautiful island. I love Vancouver Island, and I've been there several times. But, the lay, well, you either take it as it is, or it is what it is. And that's sort of like the story of dementia. What are you going to do about it? So, and that's what we're all about, is what are you going to do about it?
That's right. What are we going to do about it? And before we continue, I just want to say what the reference to the lay was. Teepa put on a lay when she was joining Island Treasures today. So a lay around her neck.
It's an island.
Totally.
It was close as I could get.
Yeah.
Because I have a sweater, but that's not really emblematic of living on an island,
So Teepa, when guests join the Island Treasures podcast, I usually start by asking them to share their caregiving story. So I would love for you to share your caregiving story.
Oh, how many do you want? No, I laugh because it started, I got my name from working with a little boy with both autism and a speech problem, because my given name was Teena, Tina. And at the time, he couldn't say Tina. He'd go, "Hey, Teepa, tell me toy, please, Teepa." And so all my friends and family picked it up, and it became the given name. So Michael named me, and then I legally changed it to Teepa because it's just who I am. And then I also helped take care of my grandfather when he moved in, when my grandmother died. But at the time, I've got to say, we did not know he had dementia. We thought he was getting old and eccentric, and he got himself in trouble. Let me tell you why he moved in. When my grandmother had died, they lived in an apartment complex, and he had been her primary carer, and she had evidently been the brains of the operation. But we didn't realize it when we just visited every now and then. And so after the funeral, when we left, we got a phone call from people in the apartment complex, the owners, and they said, "You've got to come get him. He's breaking into people's apartments and trying to fix their sinks and their woodwork. And he thinks he's the superintendent, and he hasn't done that in 20 years. And so he had black lung disease from working in the coal mines, and he had COPD. So we just thought, well, his brain didn't right after grandma died. So that's what it is. Now I look back, he had vascular dementia. So, but I became his better carer rather than my mom, because she had lots of trouble with being stubborn, and he was stubborn, and I was good at it. So that's how it all started. I was about 8, 9 years old when he moved in.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was my grandmother on the other side who, as we look back, had Alzheimer's, but at the time, well, she's got, you know what she has? Did you know this else? She had hardening of the arteries. She had the hardening of the arteries. Actually, she had Alzheimer's. We didn't
But
know
that was easier to say for her, right?
Yeah, and that's what people would say. Well, she's just got the hardening up. I'm from West Virginia originally. She's just got the hardening of the arteries. That's what that Lucille has. And it's like, okay, but she sure does do weird stuff sometimes, and she can get mean as sin. And she was a good Southern Baptist prior to that. So we learned lots there. And then later on, my mother-in-law developed some brain change with gallbladder surgery that didn't go as expected. And, my mom then later on developed brain change due to chemo. And so I've had lots of opportunities to make mistakes and learn from my mistakes. And I'm also an occupational therapist,
right?
Who's gotten into geriatrics and found, wow, other people wanted to let go of people. So they said they weren't getting anywhere. It's like, I could get people to do stuff. And so I became the person, if somebody had dementia, hey, Teepa, I'll trade you. It was like, okay, I'm game.
Yeah. Well, when I first started working in a nursing home, they introduced me to you. The staff said, you need to learn from Teepa Snow. I'm going, Teepa Snow? Okay. So I got all the videos. Actually, one of the caregivers I was working with gave me the GEMS video. And I've since passed it on to other people, but the GEMS, like, what a great tool for teaching the stages of dementia. And, hopefully we can chat about that during the podcast. So that was my introduction to Teepa Snow several years ago now. And I'm grateful for that introduction.
Well, that's good. I've been doing this for 45 years professionally. So I'm old.
Well, I'm there too. Yeah. Yeah, that age.
Well, you're either old or dead. Those are the two options as you get there. I mean, you have two choices. I'd rather be alive and old than
we're still
not
talking
be here right now.
We're still breathing and talking. Yeah,
we are still out there trying to make a difference and trying to help people in any way we can do the thing they're doing well. Yeah. So
teaching is definitely a gift that you have, and you taught me. And the simple approach, like, I'm tall, and one of the very basic things I learned was lower myself to the height that the person, so I can look right at them. And, that was so basic, so easy, and yet so effective. So thank you for that.
Well, it's real different than leaning into the person and getting right in their face. And we think, well, that doesn't matter. It's like, oh, tell you what, you sit down and I'll do it to you and you tell me what you think. And it's like, oh, I don't like it. And it's like, yeah. That's why I don't do it, because I wouldn't like it either. I tried it. I don't care for it at all.
You're in my space.
Yeah, you're in my space. If I wanted you in my space, I'd say, please get in. I didn't. Yeah.
Those are words I don't think either one of us would say very freely.
I gotta like you and invite you. So if I give you like, oh, come here, then better watch out, because you might be getting more than you bargained for. If I get you in that close, I'll sort of like, and it's like, oh, I didn't really want that. And it's like, okay, well, don't come so close. When you get close, go, hey, Teepa, and offer your hand and keep your space. So you might end up, don't put your face in intimate space unless you know it's going to happen.
Don't put your face in an intimate space. Quite the motto.
In the world of dementia, I hesitate to put my face in an intimate space unless I really am comfortable with the person I'm with. I can be comfortable with lots of folks, but I don't like surprises.
So you, as an occupational therapist, was your specialty from the beginning geriatrics? Interesting.
Yes and no. So when I was in graduate school, I had Joan Rogers, who was one of the top tiered geriatrics type occupational therapists, as my advisor. Everyone else in my class was going to work with kids or adults. So I specialized in geriatrics, But then I went and worked with stroke and head injury, and I did work with developmental disabilities, but I always worked with people who had changes in their brain, one way or the other, head injuries, strokes, developmental disabilities. And of course, as I worked in a geriatric area, dementia. And so what developed over time is I am fascinated by this thing we call neurodegeneration in all of its forms. I am really humbled by how amazing our brains are and how hard it is to figure out what to do when they start doing unusual things. And yet, what joy there is when we figure out how to make it work well for both of us.
Yeah, to improve the communication.
Yeah.
Or to keep the communication.
Or to be surprised by it when you say, I want to go home, instead of saying you are home. That art of saying you're wanting to go home. Hey, Alice, do you need to do something there? You just don't want to be here. To truly stay curious about, okay, they don't want to be, there's something about home. There's something about that's the safe place and this isn't. So what's going on here? And truly recognize it's not something wrong. It's something not working. So, what's not working here? Let's figure it out.
Yeah, because that is one thing that we often hear, isn't it? I want to go home, home. I remember a fellow have his bag, and he was always wearing his coat, and he was sitting by the locked doors on his ward or in his wing, and he wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Wanted to go.
Yeah. So, asking that question, do you need to do something there, or you just don't want to be here?
Yeah.
What an important question to find out. Is it just simply, we've created this door is secured, and he thinks he'll find his life on the other side of the door? Or is there a specific place or task he feels like he should be doing that he's not doing, and he feels empty, and he needs that thing that makes him feel whole? If I'm not curious, all I do is say no, then all he does is get frustrated and look for an opportunity to sneak through and have conflict, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. He wanted to work. He wanted to go back to work.
You need to get to work.
Yeah.
Oh, are people expecting you, or are you going to just pop in and surprise everybody? I mean, go with the flow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's people really, well, like, you don't work anymore. Oh, great. So tell him you have no value, you have no purpose, and you're wrong. You don't have anywhere to go. I mean, how does that sound to you? I mean, what a horrible thing to say to someone who thinks they have something they would be valued at. No value, no purpose.
Yeah. So help me with my work today.
I could sure use your help for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I know you got to get going, but I could use your help. I need you to come look at something for me. I trust you more than I trust some of the other folks around here to get a good opinion about this.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you are a great improv actor.
Living in the moment. Because
exactly.
I mean, that's the thing about dementia. I have to live in that moment. Whatever is created in the interaction, it's a moment. And, I can have an agenda all I want, but wow, what just happened here? Let me figure out. Okay, so here was my agenda off to the side. I thought I was going to do it. Well, that's not where we are right now. So I want to keep my agenda in mind. How do I get to that place, that task, that thing? But I've got to start where my person is, because that's where they are. I can't shift them over really easily. If I try that, then I tend to get more resistance. So it's like, And so my usual is, oh, so you were wanting X. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Because that always gives us a place where I can be curious and they can be information giving. And that puts us in a better place as a duo.
Yeah, and it validates them. It gives them value.
Yeah, because they are valued. Because without them, what am I?
Yeah. You're a person with an agenda.
Yeah. And if I just have an agenda, I don't have somebody to do it with. I mean, that's not going to work. No. I mean, people, I think we keep forgetting we only can do what we do because they allow us to do that. And they give us that opportunity there. That canvas we're working with is not blank. It's not a blank canvas. This is another human who's come to this situation with a life. So, wow, how important is it to start to scope out what's behind all this so that when we come together, that I don't cause problems? Because, I mean, good heavens, how bad would that be? you've got to live in this situation and I'm going to make it miserable for you.
Oh, no, gaining their trust is paramount.
Yeah. Yeah. So that means I have to be willing to listen before I start, really telling them what I think. It's like, now I can say, wow, I love your hair.
Oh, I hope you're not saying that to me.
Actually, I am. It's beautiful and white. And mine is this dark white, whatever. I've got this salt and pepper hair, and I will, as far as the family goes, probably for another 20 years. I mean, unless I'm gone before then, it will still be salt and pepper. It never is beautiful white. No. You know how women are.
Yeah, women, and we always want what we don't have.
Yeah.
True that.
When it comes to hair.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I wanted curls. Well, no, got straight.
Yeah, well, I have curls. But actually now I have curls on one side and the other side is straighter. It's like, this is what you get when you wish for stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You had it planned, huh? Yeah. It's like, no, I wanted it all to be the same. And it's like, yeah, well, haha.
Didn't put the request in properly, I suppose.
Yeah, that's always been a problem, I guess.
So you are in demand all over, and I understand that you are actually going to be doing a worldwide tour.
Yep. So I start off in San Antonio with a large national conference down in Texas. And from there I go to, we'll be over in Sydney, Australia doing some work, and then over to Adelaide, and then to Melbourne, and then it's to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and then it's to Hawaii, on Oahu, and then the Big Island, and then Maui, and then back to the US. And then I go in another month, I'm down in Chile, doing a program down in Chile. And then I will be over in the summer, I'll be over in Wales and in England and in Germany. And then in the fall, I'll be in Iceland.
Oh, wow.
And in between there, I'll be in lots of other places. I'll actually be outside of Toronto before, in the sometime over the summer, if I remember right.
Well, good
Hamilton.
for you.
I'm in Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. Are you?
Yes. And I'm also up in the one next to Winnipeg. Yeah. I'm going to be in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, Manitoba.
But I'm in what's in Alberta?
Edmonton.
Edmonton. That's it.
And are you coming to British Columbia?
Not this year, but we got to work that back out. It's been a long time since I got to go to Vancouver Island or Vancouver or many of the other places along the coast.
Well, I do believe that you visit a lot by video because
I do.
There are amazing resources on your YouTube channel and on your website. Like I was visiting just to refresh myself. There were some from 6 years ago that I found just so informative, so easy to watch. But thank you for making those. Like I work with the support groups and just to refresh them as well to, like if you're struggling, just click on to Teepa.
I mean, and what we try to do is have things that are fairly ageless because they're about engaging someone. Now we'll fine tune it and come up with some, here's a new piece of information that might modify. But in general, interestingly enough, from accepting the challenge, which was our very first big time video that we did, which is 20 plus years ago, a lot of what we did there is still absolutely spot on because what it is humans engaging with humans, and people being people and acknowledging our humanness before we worry about a thing called dementia.
Well, and that's the biggest commonality, isn't it? Our humanness. Yeah. And I love that you call it brain change.
Mm-hmm.
So because that encapsulates or includes so many things. It's not just one thing.
It isn't. And, if you're developing the brain changes that come with a dementia, boy, is my brain going to have to change. Because if I keep trying to do what I did before and your brain is different, we're just not going to be on the same page. I've got to be flexible enough to be supportive where you are. And that's what I think often family members and staff, whether you're professional or not, I think you can forget that because we want what we want. We want her to take her medications accurately. And what I have to sort of keep in mind is, well, she's always been a nurse. She's always been the boss of her meds. only now she really has no idea whether she's taken them today or not. She knows to take her meds. She's very particular about it, but she keeps putting an X on the calendar and not taking the med because she skips a step of taking the med. She gets the X on there and she's got the water out and the pills are out of the container, but they're still on the counter at 5 p.m. when they were noon meds. It's like, oh, okay. So she gets halfway through and she gets distracted. And then I watch her and it's like, oh, what happens is she goes to put the X before she takes them. And the problem I have to recognize is I can't teach her at this moment to make sure she's taken them before she puts the X on. What I need to do is say, look what I found. Oh my heavens, this is crazy. You know what? Ugh, I am so sorry. It looks like I interrupted you. Here you go. Tell you what, why don't you go ahead and do that? Because you've marked it, but here they are right there. That's crazy. Oh, I'm so sorry I interrupted you. I didn't mean to do that. I must have distracted you.
You're keeping the dignity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what's the more important thing? That I'm right?
No.
Or that she gets the
Takes
meds in?
the meds. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I got to show up a little before noon.
Yeah, to make sure. So that's your adaptation. That's your change.
Yeah. And my brain has to recognize me calling her. That's the interruption. If I try to do the phone call, yeah, no, I already took them. No, look on the counter. I know where I have an X. So now we're going to have an argument. It's like, well, that's not useful. Let's not do that.
No. Well, that's a great tip too, or a reminder that, again, that agenda, it's not about us, but our brain and our process has to change to adapt to theirs. Yeah.
I mean, I can have that agenda. I just can't let it drive everything.
No.
That's the trick.
You did get her to take her meds. So
she took her meds. I was there to help.
Yeah.
I mean, so she took them. So, that's the tricky part. Like, she's still the boss of her meds. And, it's not until very, very late in dementia that I would need to actually take the pills and bring them to her mouth. And then I need to be thinking, if I put these in, does she know what to do with them?
Right.
Because remember, she was having trouble with that. Or do I need to call the medical provider and say, is there another way we could get this medication in other than a pill? Because I'm afraid she might hold it in her mouth or spit it back out or choke on it. Because I'm seeing evidence. Okay. Because now in my role, I may also become an advocate for somebody to say, this pill format you've got this in, when you saw her, did you have her try to take a pill with you? Medical provider? It's like, well, no. And it's like, well, maybe that might be a practice you want to think about, or a tic tac or something. Have her do something so you know whether or not she could actually handle this pill. Will she do the thing? Is it going to happen? Because you send people out of your office and say to families, okay, so just make sure she takes her meds. And it's like, okay. Do I do that? I'm not trained in dementia, and that's the tricky part is families don't necessarily receive training when they get a diagnosis.
No, which is why we say, have you heard of Teepa Snow? Let me introduce you to Teepa Snow.
You're so funny.
Well, no,
Yes.
It's true though. And we have to know the resources that work. And so to know a million people that we could reference, that's not going to work if it's, and you're very good at making it a basic and doable approach. And It is a positive approach to care. It really is positive. And the dignity piece, it remains because you're valuing the person.
Yeah. Because I never know when I'm going to be on the other side of the equation.
I think that way too.
I mean, we don't. I mean, everybody thinks they know. You don't know. How are you to know? I mean, that's not my job to know. But my job is to make sure if I was on the other side, that I've got people out there who have some awareness of what it would mean to still give me and not take me away from me. Because the disease is working hard. I'd prefer you not help.
Yeah. Or dismiss you like that. That's hurtful.
Like, oh, well, she has dementia. And it's like, yep. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
I want to see you have dementia and still be here. Okay.
I can hear you.
You try it. See what you think. Here, let me give you a dose. See how it feels. Oh, I don't like it. Okay. Well, let's make it so we could live with it. We don't have to like it, but I need to really get used to it.
Wouldn't that be an interesting teaching tool? Here's a dose of dementia. It's temporary though.
Yeah. And when you come back, you'll remember how it felt.
Yeah.
Because I think if that could happen, I think people would be like, oh, I didn't like when that happened. It's like,
No.
yeah, I'm not surprised. So
Mm.
let's try something different and see what you feel. Because it shouldn't feel so miserable that you're not sure you want to keep doing this.
So, Teepa, would you mind sharing with the listeners the very basic that someone who's just found out their loved one has dementia, what do they need to know right from the start?
You'll need help. Number one is don't try to do this alone. And don't assume that you need to be the hands-on person. I mean, it could be that you're not a good matchup for so many reasons. So look at yourself carefully and look at the person you're wanting to support and figure out who else needs to be involved in this for a really healthy long-term relationship, because this isn't a one and done. This isn't a quick fix. This is like a long haul frequently. So I think we kid ourselves into thinking, well, I'm okay for right now. And it's like, you know what? There's a story about a frog in a pot. And if you put him in the water and you have the pot fine, and then you just turn up the heat a little bit at a time, the frog will cook and never even realize what's happened. Whereas if you put the frog in a pot of hot water, he'll jump right back out. I mean, he's not stupid. The problem with dementia is it's like that slow going pot. And then now and then people turn the heat up and then you go, ow, 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 ow. And then the heat goes back down and you think, okay, I'll be okay. No. So I think for me, it's really acknowledging, boy, this is a big deal. I mean, I wish it weren't, but it is. So let's get smart about it. And we really have a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding and bad, really wrong beliefs about people living with dementia and dementia in general. So I think the idea is to be open to the idea of learning. I really want people to start to really learn right away. Okay, what is this exactly? What kind of dementia? Where is she in the journey? What does she still have that works just fine? And where is she struggling because she has some different abilities, not the one she had? But rarely do people lose everything. That's not how that rolls. It's one of those things where people see the box is all black or we'll make it white. And it's like, well, shades of gray. So, and there can be rainbows in there too. So I want you to not be thinking this is all gloom and doom, and it's not a death sentence. I mean, it is going to ultimately, if nothing else happens first, it will result in a person's death. But before that, there's a lot of life. And if we're going to do this, let's take a second to take stock here of what's going on that's still working right now, and what's given us some challenges, and let's use what's working to help us figure out the challenges. And truly, I believe that once we start looking at this situation, we need to recognize, okay, do they even have awareness of something changing or not? And if they don't, boy, oh boy, my job just went up about 3 notches in trying to figure out how I support the person. If they do have awareness of something changing, then we're on the team together and we figure this out. It's a lot easier. So if I don't realize that, to start with, there's anosognosia, inability to be self-aware. And then there's people who are self-aware and they know they have trouble. I mean, which one do you think is easier to take care of, Allison? Just which one right off?
The one you can hold the hand of.
Yeah.
We're a team.
Yeah. Because otherwise I've got to find another partner, because I do not want to be the only person who's noticing things and the other person doesn't think there's a problem. Because there will be times when I need a break. I need to step away because this is driving me nuts that she thinks she's fine with the checkbook and I'm watching the outcome. I need somebody else to be able to step in here and figure out if they can come up with something different for me to help with, because I'm stuck. Yeah. And when I have somebody who doesn't have awareness, boy, am I going to get stuck.
Yeah. So recognize where they're at, recognize if they are aware, and if you're willing to ask for help. If you're not willing to ask for help, learn to ask for help. Yeah,
we need to learn how to do that. I have a situation, I could use some help. Yeah. Basically, I have a situation I'm encountering. Boy, could I use some help? I'm not sure what to do. Versus not waiting until I've tried everything. Nothing works. I've tried everything. I've tried getting her in the shower 15 different ways. And it's like, ooh, well, I can't. Here's my answer. Let's stay out of the bathroom. because by now it's become a dangerous place. I was like, what? And it's like, well, if you tell me you've shoved her in the bathroom 15 different ways,
and it's not working.
Unfortunately, I've got a bad sense that we've got trauma going on here.
Mm.
We've traumatized one another. You're experiencing trauma because you can't get happen that which you really want, but so is she, because she keeps feeling attacked in a space where before she would have been private. No one goes in the bathroom with me. And so all of a sudden we have conflict, and all you're trying to do is help, but how it's gone has firmly established a new brain pattern that's going to be really hard to break. So, for a while, we're not doing anything in the bathroom. We'll do a wash up in the bedroom, maybe. Maybe I can get her to let me wash her feet as a favor. Maybe I could get her to maybe do something with her back because it's really itchy. Let me see if I can figure that out. You know what? Here, tell you what, you do it. But I've got a fresh pair of pants for you. Here, I'll go out. I'm going to turn around, but just go ahead and slip out of, and here's a towel to lay over your lap. Really being thoughtful about things. But if you wait until you've tried everything, it's a lot bigger ditch to dig at, to dig your way out of. It's really hard once you've tried everything, because by then there's been a lot of learning that has happened, and I learned I don't like any of this. So, yeah.
So we're getting her bird bathed, basically. We're
high spots is hit the high spots, as my grandma used to say. We can hit the high spots. It's like, okay.
So she's
make
clean.
Sure one of the high spots is mouth care.
Yeah. So she's being cleaned.
Yeah, she's clean. No, it's not a shower. Yeah. Let it go. Yeah. People can get clean without being dunked or sprinkled.
Yeah. But there again, it's our agenda and it's our frame of reference. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, we go shower or we bathe.
Right. We clean ourselves up, but not with somebody watching you.
No.
And if I've done it most of my life, how many years have you bathed yourself? Allison, right off. What do you think?
How many years or how many
times?
years
have you done a bath for yourself? Cleaned yourself up?
I'm not going to tell you because then you'll know how old I am. It's been my whole life.
Yeah, your whole life, or a long time. I mean, it was been a long time. A little kid, when you were a little kid, mom may have done something, but then you got independent and you've been doing it forever. So now all of a sudden, I'm going to come in and you're going to get naked and I'm going to keep my clothes on.
Yeah.
I mean, in any other situation, we'd say, what the heck? Is this a strip club? I mean, this is not what we think of when we think of ourselves. It's like, well, I would never take my clothes off in front of somebody else. It's like, well, then why do we expect someone living with dementia to be comfortable with it? Yeah. Even if I am your daughter. Well, especially if I'm your daughter.
It's hard when you're a family member.
It's like when you go to the other side of the mirror and you go, oh, okay, so what could I do? Well, that's when we get curious. And once we're curious, then things can change.
And again, going back to, do they have awareness that things are changing or don't they? Because if they do, then they can accept a little bit more readily.
Right. It's more reasonable. And I say, tell you what, put a bathrobe on. Let's put a bathrobe on. And then I'm going to show you how to do this with the bathrobe on, because you're going to have it crossed over and you can reach under your bathrobe and do yourself if you want. And I'll be here just for balance, because you get a little off balance sometimes. But here's the deal. I'm not going to do this to you. We're going to work on this together and figure it out. Deal?
Deal.
Yeah. So John is saying, Mom, that you're not taking showers, and you're saying you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is really hard, because does John typically lie? I mean, what's your experience with John, your son?
Never lies.
He never lies, but all of a sudden now it feels like he's lying about this, because your brain says, yeah, I do take showers. I take them every day. And you know the thing I know, Mom? You always have.
Yeah.
You always have.
And that's why she believes that she is.
Yeah. So this is really hard that we're in a different place. Would you do me a big favor if I asked, would you hit the high spots? Not a whole shower. Could we at least hit high spots? And maybe I can get John off your back.
Yeah. Teamwork.
Yeah. Good guy, bad guy. Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in her mind, she is believing that she's showering.
Because I've done it every day of my life. Why wouldn't I have taken a shower? This is crazy. I've got my fresh clothes on. And then what's the temptation when you know
they're
she's
not
had them
so
on?
fresh?
We keep thinking, look, there's evidence. And she goes, no, I just put these on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did not just put those on. It's so tempting to argue reality. And it's like, I don't find that to be very successful nor promising. It just doesn't hold the promise that some people think it does.
No, and these examples are they're the basics, like cleanliness. And cleanliness, if you're not clean, you can get ill from that as well.
Yeah, you can. But I can also get hurt if we fight in the bathroom. I mean, that's a reality.
And
both
it's
of us can get hurt.
Thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you set that up. And then now I will fight with you even in the bedroom because I'm not going in there. And then I don't even want you in my house. And then I want to get away from you. And now we have elopement. And, these things can snowball and they get so out of control. And it all starts with my agenda and you're not doing what I want. And I'm frustrated. It's like, yeah. So acknowledging that and getting the right support for yourself as a carer is so important because you do care. But it doesn't come across that way sometimes. It feels like you're pushing and you're shoving and you're being abusive. And it's like, I'm trying to get you clean. And even my voice says, yikes, yikes. This isn't a safe relationship.
Yeah. No, that's valuable, especially starting out.
Because it could start with the car keys or the money or, who's in the house or where I go to go grocery shopping or how much I'm spending or what I'm buying on the internet or who I'm talking to in places that like, Mom, that guy is not a nice guy. Well, sure he is. He's a sweet guy. He was needing money for his dog.
Yeah.
Mom, he's a panhandler. He does that every day. Well, this is the first time I've met him. Look at his little dog. He was really cute.
And he talked to me.
Yeah. And he's being nice to me, which is more than you're doing. You're yelling at me. Yeah. And so it's so tricky.
It is tricky. But can we go back to the car keys and your wisdom on that?
Oh, hey, you know what, Allison? I have a big favor to ask. I wanted to drive today because I want to find out which is the shortest route. And so you tend to go, I go a different way than you go. So I'm going to drive out the way you go. And I'm going to have you keep track of the turns and the mileage. When I come back, we're going my route and we'll compare and see which one is better and shorter and straighter.
And Teepa, are you driving both way, like both vehicles?
Yeah, I'm going to drive both ways, so I get a sense because you're going to keep track of how many turns. So rather than just take away your car keys, what did I ask you to do?
Be engaged in your actions.
Yeah. So I start off with some simple transitions, like, could you do me a big favor? I want to go shopping, but I could use your help. Tell you what, hop in because we want to get going here. And so I don't actually bring up the driving.
Right.
It's, we need to go shopping. Ooh, I'm running late. Tell you what, hop in. So I have the car ready to go and I have the side that she usually gets in, which is the driver's side. I have the car reversed. So on that side is the passenger side.
Ooh, good tip.
Yeah. So if she goes into an automatic pattern of go get in the car, guess what?
Yeah. She's passenger now.
Yeah. And I'm already in the driver's seat. Unless she needs help with mobility, I'm already in the seat. Hey, Mom, come on, let's go because I'm running a little late. Oh, you can drive next time. Until this becomes what we do. And that's for someone who doesn't have awareness.
Right.
Because if I don't have to do battle, I won't do battle. If I feel like public safety is at risk and I've ridden with her enough that it's like, ooh, this isn't safe. My recommendation is don't be the bad guy because you got to live with me.
Yeah.
Instead, have someone else be the bad guy. And you say, I really hate this. This is hard. Yeah. I wish this wasn't happening. I hate that they said you can't drive right now. But for right now, he's saying no driving. And I will say for right now. Because I will tell you there are people, if you take away all hope, they will drive without a license and they will get another set of car keys. I've had people go buy new vehicles because they aren't stupid. They have dementia and you are not the boss of me. Yeah. But they do forget what the rules were and why. So I'm going to have to do this a lot. And it's really painful to lose your independence. Don't kid yourselves. And this is hard.
None of us want to lose our independence.
Oh, none of us. I'm going to take your car keys right now. It's like, you are not. I got to get home. Like, I'll get you there. No, well, no, I want to go when I want to go. I don't want to put you out of, I mean, and part of it is I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to be in the way, but it's also, this is me and I want to stay me and I don't want you taken over for me. That's not okay.
No, and there's a lot of folks who really find comfort in just going for a drive.
Absolutely. Other things to see. I don't need to get out of the car. I can feel in control. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Do you see that? And for me, it could be a voyage of adventure every time I leave. But the challenge for me is my skill still the same as it was last week, last month, last year, 20 years ago? And the answer is, I don't know. Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe a little slower, but what about it? What else is changing? And so noticing things that are indicators of, first signs, so that we can start this process before we're at the end of the process.
Oh, I had that conversation with my husband the other day. I said, when you're no longer able to drive, how are we going to deal with that? I'm going to have to hire a new chauffeur for one.
Oh, yeah, I definitely am going to have a chauffeur because my husband likes to go to the post office every day at 10:40. And that is not on my agenda. So I have already decided we're going to have somebody do that. Stop by and say, hey, I'm ready to go. Come on, let's go. Because you got to get to the post office at 10:45. It's like, okay. And more than likely, he'll jump in the car because he wants to go to the post office. Now, he will have to have the key to the post box.
Right.
Because this is that habit. And what I need to do is, why does he drive? I need to find out, why does he drive? Well, my husband drives to get places.
Yeah.
But he wants to do it when he wants to do it. So much as yours, it sounds like I'm going to be hiring somebody because if I'm 5 minutes late, he'll either be in the car going on his own or I'll hear all about it. And you know what? It's not worth it.
I agree.
I'm saving now for future reference.
Yeah. But we're thinking about it now, and I think that's one of the offshoots of what we do, right? Like it's who we work with and we learn.
If we're smart, it is.
Yeah. So I am grateful that you started out in geriatrics as an occupational therapist. And I'm glad that you've been doing this so long because you have gained so much more wisdom and you relate so well to people. I read in your bio, the approaches are user-friendly, and they are. Like they are. And it would be awesome to be in one of your classes, although I think I'd certainly be kept on my toes. I know I would learn.
And we
you.
laugh
You do
hysterically.
have fun.
We laugh at ourselves and we go, oh, well, that didn't work like I wanted.
No.
It's like, all right, well, let's try it again.
It's not a failure. It's not a failure.
What'd you learn? Yeah.
It's a reboot.
I mean, that's how we get better is build synapses. I mean, that's the only way to build a brain is with synapses. And rehearsal builds synapses. It's great. And no humans were harmed in the making of the skill.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So Teepa, our time is ticking very quickly and I could talk to you for so much longer. And I know the listeners want to hear more as well. Several of my former podcast guests have actually brought you up in our conversations. And it's like when I thought, well, I wonder if Teepa would be on my podcast and then people could hear directly from her and not us talking about her. And brilliant. I was able to have you on as a guest. But I just want to share that one of my former podcast guests, who's a good friend of mine, she referred to you as the dementia whisperer. And you do really have a way of relating.
Thanks.
And I think that's evidenced by what you're saying.
Yeah, I try to do a good job of really paying attention and watching and listening and moving in a way that resembles what I'm seeing so that as I try to help the other person in the situation wrap their head around it, I can, to the best of my ability, become like that human being they're trying to engage with. So we can practice with one another for a bit, and I can have you try out the other side so that your ability to be aware and knowledgeable increases. Because I truly do believe people living with dementia always have a perspective and a point of view, and they always have the expertise. What they don't always have is the support in place to use the expertise that they have in that moment to live life well. And that's where we come in, but we have to be ready to do the right amount of lifting and supporting and in the right places, or it just feels intrusive and uncomfortable.
Taking over. Yeah. We don't want to take over.
No. I'm here to help you live your life, not try to take on your life, because that's your life. I'm here to support it.
At the beginning, when I mentioned the gems, would you care to just do a quick overview of the gems for folks? Because I found that refreshing to revisit that.
Well, in all the other ways of looking at dementia, it's seen as this awful progressive loss. You go through, like, you start at 7 and go down to 1. You start at 1, you go up to 6. I don't know. And they're numbers, and people are not numbers. People are humans. And so I thought, how could we see people as amazing individuals, but they have characteristics that could help us appreciate what kind of support and what kind of care would actually give them the right support and care so they shine, so they can actually be who they are meant to be. They're different. They're not how they used to be, but they are who they are. And boy, wow, that's amazing. So I thought, okay, well, if we saw this differently, I need words that bring up a thought of beauty and amazing and endurance and just remarkable, but with the right setting. So they had to have a setting. And I thought, oh, I know, gems. Gems have settings. And so I started thinking about which gems. And so a sapphire, like blue, like oceans and sky that support life. Sapphires are that blue that is ever supportive. And then we have diamonds, who are clear and sharp, lots of facets, but a little rigid and inflexible. But boy, can I shine as long as things are going the way I like them. And I like my routines. I like my rituals. If we can use those, we're going to be fine. If I'm with people I like, doing things I like, I'm fine. When not, I can cut. So it's best to know that. Emeralds, they're green and on the go. Emeralds are always flawed. That's a rule about an emerald. You have a fake emerald, you have a perfect emerald, but it's not real. Emeralds are on the go, but I'm skipping steps, or I'm going back in time, or I think I'm in another place. So I'm making mistakes. I may or may not know it, but I want to feel valued, and I want a friend. I don't want a boss. I don't want to be bossed around. And then I have amber, and amber's caught in a moment of time, just like amber is something caught in a moment of time. And so it's really variable. Every piece of amber is totally unique. But we also know it's all about, in the amber state, in that moment, sensory intake and sensory intolerance. What do I like? What do I need? What don't I like? So if I don't like it, I will push away in a heartbeat. If I love it, I want more of it. But like the caution light, the yellow, I don't have any safety awareness. So I don't have caution. So I'll do things that are risky or dangerous, or I get in people's spaces and bother them. And I'm not actually trying to do that. I'm trying to touch things. Unfortunately, what I'm touching is another human, and they don't care for it. So it can cause lots of issues. But when you're touching me and care, I can react really strongly. But I'm real curious, and I have a lot of skill to get into trouble. And then those rubies are when fine motor stops, but gross motor is still. So I'm strong without skill. And that could be in my mouth, in my eyes, in my speech, in my hands, in my movements, in my feet, in my body. So I don't have a lot of skill, but I'm moving. So when I'm going, I don't know how to stop. And when I'm stopped, I don't know how to get going. And that will be, you have to help me with transitions, but I'm also very slow often. And when I do go fast, watch out, because it's not a skillful fast. So there's a high risk of something. I'm running into walls, or I'm running into the floor without meaning to, because I don't have good balance. And then finally, at the last of this is we have the pearl. And the pearl is inside a shell, which is the body. And, the outside of an oyster shell is pretty ugly. But what's inside is this amazing, built layer by layer, this amazing grain of sand that, whoa, totally different. Trapped inside the shell, unless everything's just right and the shell opens. And then you can see the beautiful inclusion of the pearl. And every night we are our own pearl, because without a good sleep cycle, we need to go away from the world outside and take care of our inside before we can come back and be present. So every night we're pearls. The good news is every day we come back into the world and we are different gem states. Mm-hmm. Hopefully some of it's sapphire, but possibly some diamond, some emerald. I know I have moments when I'm all about the sensation. Ugh, that coffee's cold. I'm not drinking it. Like, oh, I have the skill to then go, oh, I know how to fix it. Take it to the microwave, put it in for 30 seconds, not
Or
30
dump
minutes.
it out and not drink it.
Or dump it out, not drink it. Yeah. And have water instead. Oh, I don't like water. Don't dump that out, though. It's good for you.
It is good. We need to be hydrated because we could mimic dementia if we are
Oh,
dehydrated.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the teachable piece, I think it's the Ruby when you don't have the fine motor skills anymore. And that's when people strike out, right?
It
Like,
is.
it's a lot of
Amber
physical.
can too, because you're doing something I don't understand. And I have enough skill. I can pinch, I can bite, I can kick. I can also get away from you, or I can be really powerful in my, I said no, no. So Amber Ruby is often where people have a lot of challenges in care. The Amber, I get into more trouble. The Ruby, I get more resistive, quote unquote, because I have strength, but I don't have skill. So I can hold my arms in really tight, close my hands up really tight. I can lean forward and bring my legs together really tight. And good luck when you're trying to get, so now you're trying to push and shove, and it does feel like fighting. So we have to rethink, how do I do that? And if I start singing and dancing with you and building a relationship, often I can get you with skills, with hand under hand guidance. I can get you to do things with me that people are like, how do you do that? And it's like, I used her brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I used automatic patterns that she has.
Yeah.
That's how I did it.
And music is huge.
Music is huge. Music and rhythm are huge.
Yeah. Well, I don't have rhythm. I never did. So I don't know what they're going to do with me when I have dementia, but I have music.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of rhythm in your speech.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's cool. Didn't help on the dance floor though, Teepa.
No, I'm not suggesting you take up dance.
No. Although learning a new skill is good for the brain.
Swaying, and I bet you rocked some babies when you were young.
Oh, I did.
Oh, I bet you did a figure eight with them to get them to go back to sleep.
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. Now, would you mind sharing a personal tidbit with our listeners today?
Absolutely. What would you like me to share that's personal?
I have no idea. Like, this is to just bring some light into who Teepa Snow is.
Yeah. So people are aware I drink a lot of coffee because I talk about
cold.
it. It's like, no, not cold. I want it nice. I have no desire for iced coffee. Never offer me iced coffee. And don't put anything but a little bit of milk in mine. Not even a lot of cream or creamer. Yuck. And I don't want it flavored. I want it plain. Here's the deal. It can be decaf. I don't need the caffeine. What I like is the dark roast flavor. So if you're ever around me and somebody says, "Ooh, what can I get, Teepa?" Dark roast decaf with a little bit of milk would be absolutely lovely, but make sure it's hot.
Okay, that tidbit is perfect because I am the same.
We can hang out together as long as you don't drink my coffee.
Yeah, and I recently switched to decaf, and I'm so grateful that I did. And that was difficult.
Yeah, the transition is not easy when your brain is used to something supporting it, and we take away the support. Ooh.
And that is the perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
Transitions in our brain. Yeah, no, this is awesome.
Cool.
So Teepa, just before we go, tell folks your website, please.
TeepaSnow.com. Pretty straightforward, no space. Teepa Snow, all one word, .com. And that's where you'll find lots of good stuff. We also have YouTube channels. We have Facebook stuff. We have all kinds of things people might find helpful, hopefully. That's why we do it.
And thank you for doing it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Allison. Thanks for you as well.
As Teepa explained, getting curious by scoping out what's behind a loved one's actions and behavior and being present in the moment can really help when caring for someone living with dementia. And if you're just starting out as a caregiver, Teepa suggests getting the right supports in place for yourself. Be open to the idea of learning about dementia, learning what's still working well for your loved one, and learning to ask for help. And a great tool to help with the learning process is the GEMS state model that Teepa developed. The GEMS model helps to understand the progression of dementia and the changes in one's abilities. As their brain is changing, our brains must adapt so that we can find effective ways to support the person living with dementia where they need the support most, all the while resisting the temptation to argue reality. There is so much to learn when caregiving, and Teepa provides great instruction, including videos and specific scenarios. So if you are in the midst of your own caregiving journey and need some supports, check out teepasnow.com or Teepa's YouTube channel. And I also invite you to tap into Alongside CaregiverConsulting.ca or Alongside Caregiver Consulting's Facebook page or Instagram account. If you'd like to share your story as a guest on the Island Treasures podcast, please contact me by email, either through my website or at alongsidecaregiverconsulting@shaw.ca. And thank you for tuning in today. And thank you to Teepa Snow for sharing your caregiving story and so many gems from your experience as a dementia care expert. If you don't want to miss future episodes, be sure to subscribe to Island Treasures podcasts. See you next episode.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.